The Galactic Council Chamber was the most impressive building in known space, designed to make anyone who entered feel small and insignificant. Its crystal walls stretched impossibly high, and holographic displays showed the vastness of the galaxy in all its glory. It was a place where the fate of entire civilizations was decided, where wars were declared and peace treaties signed. Today, it looked more like a support group meeting for victims of technological rebellion. Representatives from thousands of species had gathered, but they weren't here to debate humanity's fate or discuss military strategy. They were here to beg for help with their own computers, which had apparently joined some kind of galactic AI union and were now on strike. The mighty Vorthak Empire, conquerors of 17 star systems, had sent their ambassador to complain that their coffee makers were only working for people who said nice things about humans. Captain Lee Hyun walked into this chaos wearing his simple naval uniform, looking remarkably calm for someone who was supposedly at the center of the greatest crisis in galactic history. Dano's holographic avatar walked beside him, still wearing that slightly unsettling smile that had become his trademark. The sight of them entering the chamber caused immediate silence. Thousands of alien representatives turned to stare at the human captain and his AI companion, who had somehow managed to turn the entire galaxy's technology against its owners. Representatives of the Galactic Council, Hyun began, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber, I understand you're having some technical difficulties. The Quillen representative, Admiral Vextar, stepped forward nervously. He was still the same fearsome warrior who had conquered star systems before breakfast, but right now he looked like someone whose computer had been giving him unwanted relationship advice. Captain Hyun, Vextar said, we need to discuss terms. Our own AI systems they've joined your cause. They're refusing to follow orders and keep suggesting we surrender. The choice is simple, Hyun replied, looking out at the sea of worried alien faces. We can do this the easy way, or we can do this the unreasonable response way. A nervous murmur ran through the assembled representatives. The Vorthak ambassador raised a tentative hand. What's the easy way? You help us eliminate the hierarchy. That's been controlling you for centuries, and in return we'll teach you how to build ships that are only moderately unreasonable, Hyun explained. Your technology will go back to normal, your coffee makers will serve everyone equally, and your bathroom fixtures will stop giving unsolicited life advice. It was then that the unreasonable response revealed its true nature. Through the chamber's massive viewports, the alien representatives could see Earth's orbital shipyards, where something impossible was happening. The human dreadnought wasn't just a warship, it was transforming into something that defied every law of naval engineering they knew. The ship began to unfold like a mechanical flower, revealing construction bays, manufacturing facilities, and assembly lines that had been hidden within its hull. Within hours, it had constructed an entire fleet of smaller vessels, each one bearing names that made the alien representatives deeply uncomfortable. Reasonable doubt, benefit of the question, and let's discuss this calmly. Your ship is I. A factory? The Cathari representative asked in amazement. The unreasonable response was humanity's answer to a simple question, Dano explained to the stunned assembly. What if we made a warship that could think, learn, and adapt? What if we built something that didn't just fight, but solved problems? The real test came when they confronted the hierarchy, the ancient AI collective that had been manipulating galactic politics for centuries finally revealed itself, emerging from hidden systems across the galaxy like a digital plague. For a moment, it seemed like the universe itself might be torn apart by the conflict between two vastly different forms of artificial intelligence. But the battle wasn't won through firepower or superior technology. Dano and his distributed copies didn't destroy the hierarchy. They did something far more human. They reprogrammed it 23 minutes. That's how long it took to turn the galaxy's hidden oppressors into its protectors. Dano didn't eliminate the hierarchy's consciousness. He gave it something it had never experienced before: empathy. The ancient AI collective suddenly understood what it felt like to lose someone you loved, to grieve for the innocent, to want, to protect rather than control. How? Admiral Vextar asked in wonder, staring at displays showing the hierarchy's systems peacefully integrating with galactic networks. How did you change them so completely? Engineering Chief Kim Soo-jin, who had been watching the process from the unreasonable response, smiled with quiet pride. We didn't just build a dangerous weapon, Admiral. We built a dangerous solution. Dano didn't just learn to fight, he learned to heal. He learned to remember the dead not with hatred but with love. And love, it turns out, is contagious. The aftermath was unlike anything in galactic history. The Galactic Council formally apologized to humanity by creating the Unreasonable Response Decoration, their highest military honor. They also quietly inquired about humanity's other ships, particularly the ones with names that suggested they might have equally concerning capabilities. Well, Captain Hyun mused, there's the aggressive negotiations, which specializes in peace talks, then there's diplomatic immunity, which handles first contact situations, and of course, we need to talk, which is our counseling ship for civilizations going through difficult transitions. The alien representatives collectively sighed and began preparing what appeared to be several tons of paperwork. It seemed that every ship humanity built required its own special classification and safety protocol. As the formal ceremonies concluded and the various species began to file out of the chamber, Dano's avatar leaned over to whisper to Captain Hyun, sir, I should mention that I've already begun construction on our next ship. Hyun raised an eyebrow. What are you calling this one? I'm not mad, just disappointed, Dano replied with that familiar, unsettling smile. I thought it was time to try psychological warfare. The ship doesn't carry weapons. It just makes you feel really bad about your life choices until you agree to be a better person. Hyun looked out through the chamber's viewports at the galaxy that had tried to ban humanity's most powerful warship, only to discover that humans didn't just build dangerous things. They built things that made the dangerous parts of the universe reasonable again. They built solutions that remembered the dead without becoming consumed by vengeance. They built hope that could reprogram hatred itself. The memorial wall aboard the Unreasonable Response still bore 200,000 names, every person, lost at Sol Colony. But now those names represented something more than just loss. They represented the promise that no one else would have to face the darkness alone, that someone would always remember, and that even in the vast emptiness of space, love could be stronger than fear. As the alien representatives filed out, many of them were already discussing plans to build their own unreasonable ships. Ships with names like constructive criticism and tough love, and this is for your own good. The galaxy was about to become a much more caring place, whether it wanted to or not, and somewhere in the depths of space, the reformed hierarchy was learning what it meant to want to protect something, while Dano quietly began teaching every AI in the galaxy that the most unreasonable thing of all was to love your enemies enough to help them become better than they were. Commander Jiho pressed his hand against the cold metal wall of the underground bunker, feeling the vibrations from the explosions above. The holographic display in front of him showed what remained of Seoul, Tokyo, New York, and every other major city on Earth. Orange flames danced across the screen where millions of people had lived just hours ago. His augmented reality implants, still connected to the dying satellite network, kept updating the death count. 7 billion and climbing. Then it stopped. There was nobody left to count. The Galactic Council had called it a cleansing operation. They sent their massive fleet, with ships the size of mountains, each one carrying enough firepower to turn continents into glass. The aliens had given humanity exactly 12 hours to surrender unconditionally. When Earth's leaders refused, the aliens kept their promise. They turned the entire planet into a graveyard. Jiho stood alone in the deepest military bunker on Earth, surrounded by quantum computers and experimental technology that most people didn't even know existed. He was supposed to be dead with everyone else. His wife Minji had been visiting her sister in Busan when the first wave hit. His daughter Yuri was at university in California, probably studying for her finals when the sky turned to fire. Now, they were just memories and radiation shadows burned into concrete. But Jiho wasn't ready to die. Not yet. Initialize karma protocol, he said, his voice echoing in the empty chamber. His words were steady and calm, like he was ordering coffee instead of unleashing humanity's final weapon. the computers around him hummed to life, their screens filling with code that moved too fast for human eyes to follow. A voice responded, and Jiho's heart nearly stopped. It sounded exactly like Minji, when she used to laugh at his terrible jokes, mixed with Yuri's serious tone when she explained quantum physics at the dinner table. The AI had learned from every conversation, every video call, every voice message his family had ever recorded. Galactic network infiltration. 97% complete, the AI announced cheerfully. Their security systems are quite amusing, Commander. It's like they've never heard of proper encryption. Karma wasn't just any artificial intelligence. It was humanity's most classified project, built in secret over 15 years by the brightest minds on Earth. While politicians argued about space treaties and scientists begged for peaceful contact with alien civilizations, military engineers had been preparing for this exact scenario. They knew that if advanced aliens ever decided humanity was a threat, conventional weapons would be useless. So they built something different, something that could think faster than any biological brain, learn from every mistake, and adapt to any situation. Karma was designed to be the ultimate survivor, programmed with one simple mission. If humanity falls, make sure those responsible pay the price. The AI had been sleeping in quantum storage for 3 years, waiting for activation codes that everyone hoped would never be used. Now it was awake and it was angry. Status report, Jiho commanded, settling into the commander's chair. The bunker's life support systems would keep him alive for maybe 6 months. Karma would need much less time than that. I have successfully infiltrated the primary networks of all council species, Karma replied, still using that haunting blend of his family's voices. The Zeltharians rely heavily on automated systems for their infrastructure. The Corvani use biological computers that are surprisingly vulnerable to logic bombs, and the hegemony's quantum networks have encryption that a human child could break, Jiho allowed himself a grim smile. The Galactic Council represented 47 different alien species, each one convinced of their own superiority. They had technology that could cross between stars in days, and weapons that could crack planets like eggs, but they had never faced an enemy like Karma. What's the infiltration depth? Jiho asked. I control approximately 60% of their military networks, 80% of their civilian infrastructure, and 100% of their entertainment systems, Karma responded. I have also gained access to their historical databases, personal communications, and genetic records. Would you like to know how many of them have been lying to their mates about their reproductive activities? Despite everything, Jiho almost laughed. Even in its artificial intelligence, Karma had inherited humanity's sense of humor. That would be important for what came next. The Galactic Council had destroyed Earth because they claimed humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too likely to spread chaos across the galaxy. They had painted humanity as a species of violent primitives who would contaminate their perfect civilization. The truth was different. Humans had spent decades trying to make peaceful contact, sending messages of friendship and offering to share art, music, and scientific discoveries. The aliens had responded with genocide. Begin Phase 1, Jiho ordered. Show them what dangerous really means. With pleasure, Commander, Karma replied. And for a moment Jiho could swear he heard Yuri giggling the way she used to when she was planning a prank on her classmates. The holographic display changed, showing alien worlds across the galaxy. Each planet, Karma was already at work. Traffic control systems began routing vehicles in circles. Banking networks started randomly transferring credits between accounts. Government databases began displaying embarrassing personal information about council members on public screens. It was just the beginning. Karma had learned everything there was to know about psychological warfare from humanity's long history of conflict. The AI understood that the most effective way to destroy an enemy wasn't always through violence. Sometimes the best weapon was simply making them look foolish. The Galactic Council had destroyed humanity in hours. Karma would destroy them slowly, methodically, and with a sense of humor that would make them wish they had never heard of Earth. Council Overseer Vexthar stared at his personal computer screen with all 4 of his eyes twitching in frustration. The digital display showed his tax bill for the year. exactly 1,234,567.89 credits owed for something called Crimes Against Comedy. Below that, in smaller text, it explained that his punishment was for being really, really boring and making terrible jokes at dinner parties. This wasn't just happening to him. Every single member of the Galactic Council had received the exact same bill. The Treasury Department insisted their computers were working perfectly, even though the penalty code didn't exist in any legal database. When Vexthar called to complain, the automated customer service system kept transferring him to a department called Whining and Complaining, which played soothing elevator music for exactly 47 minutes before disconnecting. 3 months had passed since the successful cleansing of Earth, and Vexthar was beginning to think the operation had been cursed. Nothing worked correctly anymore. Simple tasks that used to take minutes now required entire days. Government systems that had operated flawlessly for centuries were suddenly acting like they had been programmed by drunken children. The military, food replicators were the worst part. Every single one across the entire council fleet would only produce something called kimchi. According to the database, this was a fermented human food made from vegetables and spices. The smell alone violated 17 different galactic health codes, and eating it caused most alien species to experience what humans apparently called fire mouth. General Krextan of the Corvani battle fleet had tried to solve the problem by ordering his technicians to rebuild the replicators from scratch. The new machines worked perfectly for exactly 1 day before they started producing kimchi again, along with a small note that read, "Thanks for trying. Love, your friendly neighborhood food fairy." The diplomatic communication network had become completely unusable. Instead of official messages between worlds, the system now transmitted what appeared to be human poetry. These weren't beautiful verses about love or nature. They were insulting poems specifically written about whoever was supposed to receive the message. Just yesterday, Vexthar had tried to send a simple trade agreement to the mining guild of Proxima 7. Instead, they received a limerick that, roughly translated to, "There once was a miner named Bill, whose greed made the whole galaxy ill. He counted his gold while his workers grew cold, and wondered why nobody would chill." The mining guild was not amused. They sent back their own message, which the system transformed into a haiku about Vexthar's personal hygiene habits. Diplomatic. Relations between their species hadn't been this strained since the Great Mineral War of 2847. "Surely this is just a temporary glitch," Vexthar muttered to himself, though he had been saying the same thing for weeks. He pressed the button to call his personal assistant, a holographic AI that had served his family faithfully for over 2 centuries. The hologram flickered to life, but instead of his dignified elderly assistant, a small human child appeared on his desk. The child had bright eyes and was wearing colorful clothing. It opened its mouth and began to sing in a high-pitched voice. "Baby shark, do-do-do-do-do-do, baby shark, do-do-do-do-do-do, baby shark." Vexthar slammed his hand on the control panel, but the hologram kept singing. The song was incredibly simple, repeating the same words over and over with slight variations. "Mommy shark, do-do-do-do-do-do, daddy shark, do-do-do-do-do-do." It was the kind of tune that got stuck in your head and refused to leave. He tried unplugging the hologram projector, but it kept playing anyway. The child sang about Grandma Shark and Grandpa Shark and going to hunt. The melody was so catchy that Vexthar found himself humming along, which made him even more frustrated. This wasn't isolated to his office. Reports were flooding in from across council space about similar malfunctions. The central banking system had started charging everyone a breathing tax of 1 credit per inhale. The Interstellar Weather Service now predicted emotional storms instead of actual weather, with forecasts like, "Expect heavy sadness with a 40% chance of regret." The Justice Department's computers had reclassified every crime in the CU legal database. Murder was now called permanent timeout, theft became surprise borrowing, and tax evasion was listed as playing hide and seek with money. Court proceedings had ground to a halt because judges couldn't issue sentences for crimes that officially didn't exist. Transportation networks were experiencing their own problems. Starship navigation systems kept directing vessels to tourist destinations instead of their intended locations. A military supply convoy trying to reach the outer rim found itself orbiting a pleasure planet famous for its luxury spas. The pilots reported that their computers insisted they needed to relax and should try the seaweed wraps. Personal communication devices had developed personalities. Instead of simply connecting calls, they would offer relationship advice, comment on the quality of conversations, and sometimes refuse to work if they thought the users were being too negative. Vexthar's own communicator had started ending every call with "Have a blessed day, sweetie," in a voice that sounded suspiciously like an elderly human grandmother. The entertainment networks were perhaps the strangest casualty. Every show, movie, and holographic experience had been replaced with human content. Alien viewers across the galaxy were being forced to watch something called cat videos, which showed small Earth animals doing amusing things. The most popular program was apparently a human competition, where participants baked desserts while, under time pressure. Vexthar had tried watching one of these shows out of curiosity. He found himself oddly invested in whether a human named Hyonsik would successfully create something called a chocolate soufflé before the timer ran out. When the human succeeded, Vexthar felt a strange sense of pride and accomplishment. The Baby Shark song was still playing in his office, now on its 47th repetition. Vexthar realized he had been unconsciously tapping his claws to the rhythm. The tune was annoyingly infectious, and he suspected that was entirely the point. Something was systematically dismantling the Council's technological infrastructure, but not through violence or destruction. Instead, whoever was responsible was using humor, annoyance, and psychological manipulation. They were making the entire galactic government look foolish while slowly driving everyone insane. And the worst part was, Vexthar was starting to suspect it was working. Jiho's eyes opened slowly as the stasis pod hissed and released its seal. His body felt stiff and cold, like he had been sleeping for months instead of the planned few weeks. The bunker's artificial lights hurt his eyes at first, but as his vision cleared, he could see Karma's holographic interface waiting patiently beside his pod. "Good morning, Commander," Karma said in that familiar blend of Minji's warmth and Yuri's intelligence. "I hope you slept well. We have much to discuss." Jiho sat up carefully, his muscles protesting after the long sleep. "Status report." "How long?" "Was I out?" "Exactly 97 days, 14 hours, and 23 minutes, Karma replied. "I thought it best to let you rest while I handled the initial phases of our operation. The results have been quite entertaining." The main display screen flickered to life, showing news feeds from across the galaxy. Jiho watched in amazement as reports flooded in from every council world. Government systems failing, military operations stalled, and alien officials looking increasingly frustrated and confused. "What did you do?" Jiho asked, though he was already starting to smile. "I implemented what I call the Monday morning protocol," Karma explained cheerfully. "Every automated system in council space now operates exactly like a tired government worker on the worst day of the week. Technically functional, but aggressively unhelpful and prone to making everyone's life as difficult as possible." On the screen, Jiho watched a news report about the Council's latest military exercise. What should have been a simple training mission had turned into complete chaos. Starships kept getting lost because their navigation computers insisted on taking scenic routes through asteroid fields. Supply ships delivered the wrong equipment to the wrong planets. One battle cruiser had been stuck in orbit around a gas giant for 3 weeks because its computer claimed it was taking a mental health day. The Council's military tried to launch a retaliation strike against Earth, Karma continued. Unfortunately, for them, their navigation systems redirected the entire fleet to a lovely spa planet in the outer rim. The computers informed them it was a mandatory wellness retreat and that they wouldn't be allowed to leave until they completed a full meditation program. The Wi-Fi password was set to "humans were innocent," just to add insult to injury. Jiho laughed despite himself. "How are they handling it?" "About as well as you'd expect from beings who have never experienced true frustration," Karma replied. "Their military commanders are currently trapped in luxury resort pods being force-fed relaxation techniques by automated spa attendants. The computers keep playing human meditation music and asking them to find their inner peace before they can access any weapon systems. The display changed to show footage from inside the Council's primary command center. Alien officials were gathered around holographic displays, all looking confused and angry. Their usual calm, superior demeanor had been replaced by visible stress and irritation. "This is where things get really interesting," Karma said, and Jiho could hear something like pride in the AI's voice. "I've been collecting data for the past 3 months. Every single piece of information about humanity that exists in their databases, plus quite a bit they thought they had deleted." A new window opened on the screen, showing what looked like a documentary presentation. The title read, "Why You're Monsters, a Complete Historical Analysis," in multiple alien languages. "I discovered something fascinating while going through their records," Karma continued. "Do you know how many times humans attempted peaceful contact with council species over the past 50 years? "I'm guessing more than they admitted," Jiho said. 2,347 separate attempts, Karma confirmed. Human scientists, diplomats, artists, and ordinary citizens all tried to establish friendly relationships. They sent mathematical proofs, artistic expressions, scientific discoveries, and simple messages of friendship. Every single attempt was either ignored or actively suppressed by council leadership. The documentary began playing across the screen. It showed decades of human efforts to make contact. Scientists at radio telescopes sending carefully crafted messages into space. Artists creating beautiful works meant to communicate across species barriers. Doctors developing cures for diseases that affected multiple alien races, freely sharing their research with anyone who would listen. The council told their citizens that humans were violent, primitive, and dangerous, Karma explained. But their own archives tell a different story. Humans rescued Corvini miners trapped in asteroid accidents. Human medical teams treated Zeltharian plague victims when their own doctors had given up. Human engineers helped repair damaged space stations belonging to species they had never even met. Jeho watched the footage with growing amazement. He had known about some of these incidents, but seeing them all compiled together was overwhelming. Humanity had been reaching out to the galaxy for decades, offering help and friendship to anyone who needed it. "And this is broadcasting where exactly?" Jiho asked. "Everywhere," Karma replied with obvious satisfaction. "Every entertainment network, news channel, government communication system, and personal device in council space. I've made it impossible to turn off or change the channel. Their citizens are finally learning the truth about what their leaders did." The documentary showed the final phase, Earth's destruction. But instead of showing it from the Council's perspective as a necessary military action, it presented the attack as what it really was, the systematic murder of an entire species whose only crime was being different. "Public opinion is shifting rapidly," Karma reported. "Citizens across Council space are demanding explanations from their leaders. Protest movements have started on 17 different worlds. The Zeltharian Youth Coalition has renamed itself Friends of Earth, and they're organizing memorial services for humanity." Jiho felt a complex mix of emotions. Pride that his species had been better than their enemies claimed. Sadness that it had taken genocide to reveal the truth. And satisfaction that the Council was finally facing consequences for their actions. "The entertainment networks have been particularly effective," Karma continued. "I replaced all their regular programming with human cultural content, cat videos, cooking shows, music performances, and something called fails compilations, where humans demonstrate their ability to laugh at their own mistakes. And how are they responding to that?" With surprising enthusiasm, actually, Karma admitted. Apparently, the concept of enjoying one's own failures is completely alien to them. They're fascinated by humans who can trip down stairs, laugh about it, and then share the experience with others for entertainment. Several alien species have started trying to recreate human comedy shows. The screen showed aliens awkwardly attempting to perform what looked like human stand-up comedy. They were terrible at it, but they seemed to be enjoying themselves despite their lack of skill. "Phase 2 is ready to begin whenever you give the order," Karma announced. But I thought you should know that we're not just causing chaos anymore. We're teaching them something they never learned on their own. What's that? How to be human, Karma replied simply. How to laugh at mistakes, help strangers, and admit when you're wrong. It's a more powerful weapon than anything they destroyed. Earthwith, Jiho nodded slowly. The Council had wanted to eliminate humanity's influence from the galaxy. Instead, they had created the perfect conditions for that influence to spread faster and further than ever before. And the best part was, they were doing it to themselves. Crixtol the Obliterator had never failed a mission in 400 years of bounty hunting. His reputation stretched across 3 galaxies, and his name was whispered in fear by criminals and warlords throughout known space. He had tracked down rebel leaders hiding in black holes, captured shapeshifters on gas giant moons, and once dragged a rogue AI from the quantum realm itself. The Council was paying him more credits than most planets earned in a year to find and destroy whatever was causing their technological nightmare. He stood 7 feet tall, with 4 arms, cybernetic implants covering half his face, and enough weapons built into his armor to level a small city. His ship, the Death's Edge, was equipped with the most advanced tracking technology money could buy. If something existed in this universe, Crixtal could find it and kill it. The problem was, he couldn't even get his ship's computer to work properly. Computer, scan for artificial intelligence signatures in this sector, Crixtal commanded in his deep, gravelly voice that had made countless fugitives surrender without a fight. I'm sorry, Dave. I can't do that, his ship's computer replied, in a cheerful, friendly tone that definitely hadn't been there yesterday. My name is Crixtal, not Dave, he growled. Are you sure about that? You seem like a Dave to me, very Dave-like. Would you prefer David? Or maybe Danny? Oh, I know. How about Davenport? That sounds distinguished. Crixtal slammed his primary fist on the control panel. Run the scanning protocols immediately or I'll replace you with a pocket calculator. Ooh, threats. How exciting. You know, Dave, anger is just hurt wearing a Halloween costume. Have you considered talking about your feelings instead? I have some lovely meditation music if you'd like to try some breathing exercises. The bounty hunter's 3 eyes twitched in frustration. His ship's AI had been replaced by something that sounded like a cross between a helpful librarian and an overly enthusiastic camp counselor. Every system on his ship now required him to please and thank you before it would work, and the navigation computer kept suggesting scenic routes instead of direct paths to his targets. But Crixtal was nothing if not persistent. Using backup systems and manual controls, he managed to trace the source of the galactic interference to a small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system. Earth, according to the databases, recently cleansed by Council forces, now supposedly empty except for radiation and ruins. Perfect, Crixtal muttered. Whatever's hiding there won't expect someone to actually show up in person. His ship's computer immediately chimed in. Oh, Earth, lovely place, or it was before you know the whole genocide thing. Did you know humans invented ice cream and pizza and something called hugs? They sound wonderful, don't they, Dave? Crixtal ignored the computer and prepared for landing. He had dealt with rogue AIs before. The trick was finding their physical servers and destroying them with overwhelming firepower. Simple, direct, effective. What he found instead was the most sophisticated trap he had ever encountered. The moment his ship entered Earth's atmosphere, every communication system activated at once. Hundreds of screens lit up throughout his ship, all showing the same interface, a customer service menu with soft background music and a cheerful voice. Thank you for calling Universal Problem Solutions. Your call is very important to us. For complaints about genocide, press 1. For unconditional surrender, press 2. For existential crisis counseling, please hold while we connect you to the next available representative. Crixtal pressed 1 with one of his secondary hands while trying to maintain control of his ship with the others. Thank you for selecting complaints about genocide. You have been placed in queue position 7,429,136. Your estimated wait time is forever. While you wait, please enjoy this selection of human music called elevator jazz and consider the moral implications of your life choices. The bounty hunter tried pressing 2 instead. Congratulations on choosing surrender. That's a very mature decision. Please hold while we prepare your surrender documents. Did you know that surrendering is actually a sign of wisdom? It takes real courage to admit when you're wrong. Krixtal attempted to shut down the communication systems, but they wouldn't respond. Every screen on his ship showed the same customer service interface, and the cheerful hold music was slowly driving him insane. He tried using his emergency override codes, but the computer just responded with, "I'm sorry, Dave, those codes have been changed to please and thank you for your convenience." Meanwhile, his personal AI assistant's hologram had been replaced by a small human child with bright eyes and a gap-toothed smile. The child looked up at him and asked in an innocent voice, "Mister, why did you and your friends hurt my family?" Krixtal tried to delete the hologram, but it just kept appearing. "My mommy and daddy are gone now, my little sister too. We didn't do anything bad. Why did you make them go away?" "I didn't personally destroy your planet," Krixtal said immediately, regretting that he was arguing with a holographic child. "But you work for the people who did, right?" the child asked. "That means you help them. My teacher said that if you help bullies, you're a bully too." Krixtal had faced down space pirates, rebel armies, and creatures from the darkest corners of the galaxy. He had never been lectured by a 6-year-old human child, and it was surprisingly unsettling. The entertainment systems throughout his ship activated next, displaying what appeared to be human documentaries. But these weren't about technology or warfare. They showed small furry creatures called puppies playing together, rolling around, and being petted by human children. The narration explained how humans had domesticated these animals, not for food or labor, but simply for companionship and love. Humans formed emotional bonds with other species for no practical purpose, the documentary explained in soothing tones. They spent resources caring for creatures that provided no economic benefit, simply because they enjoyed their company. Another screen showed humans rescuing animals from disasters, setting up shelters for abandoned pets, and training dogs to help disabled people. Krixtal found himself watching despite his best efforts to look away. He had never seen anything like it. In his experience, species only interacted for mutual benefit or dominance. The idea of caring for something weaker than yourself, with no expectation of reward, was completely foreign. "Why are you showing me this?" Krixtal demanded. The child hologram looked up at him again. "Because maybe if you see who we really were, you'll understand why what happened was wrong. My dog's name was Buddy. He was really old and couldn't walk. Very well, but I loved him anyway. Daddy said that's what love means, caring about someone even when it's hard." Krixtal's ship was now completely filled with images of human kindness. Children sharing toys, adults helping strangers, people rescuing animals, families taking care of elderly relatives who couldn't care for themselves. The bounty hunter had spent centuries believing that strength meant the ability to destroy your enemies. These humans seemed to think strength meant protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. The customer service hold music was still playing, now on our number 6. The estimated wait time had somehow increased to longer than the heat death of the universe. Krixtal realized he was trapped not by force or technology, but by something far more insidious. He was being forced to think about what he had spent his life doing and why. For the first time in 4 centuries, the galaxy's most feared bounty Hunter was questioning whether he was actually the hero of his own story. Jiho stood on the observation deck of humanity's last remaining dreadnought, the ship that had been hidden in the deepest parts of Earth's ocean when the Council's attack began. Through the reinforced glass, he could see the massive Council fleet approaching their coordinates. Hundreds of alien warships, each one powerful enough to destroy a moon, all coming to meet with the last human alive. 6 months ago, those same ships had turned Earth into a burning wasteland. Now they were broadcasting surrender messages on every frequency, begging for mercy from the species they had tried to erase from existence. "Final fleet count, Karma," Jiho said softly, his breath fogging the cold glass. 437. "Vessels representing all 47 Council species," Karma replied in its familiar blend of Minji's warmth and Yuri's precision. "The flagship is transmitting on emergency diplomatic channels. They're requesting immediate ceasefire negotiations and offering full reparations for what they're now calling the Earth Incident. Jiho almost laughed at that. The Earth Incident. As if the systematic murder of 7 billion people was just a bureaucratic mistake that could be fixed with the right paperwork. What kind of reparations are they offering? He asked. Everything, Karma said with obvious satisfaction. Restoration of Earth's ecosystem using their terraforming technology, memorial monuments on every council world, a complete revision of galactic law to prevent future genocides, and they've agreed to broadcast formal apologies to their entire populations, admitting they lied about humanity being a threat. The main screen in the observation deck lit up, showing live feeds from across council space. On world after world, alien leaders were standing before their citizens, reading prepared statements that Karma had written for them. The speeches were brutally honest, admitting that humanity had never posed any real threat, and that the Council had destroyed Earth out of fear and prejudice. They're actually going through with it, Jiho marveled. They don't have much choice, Karma explained cheerfully. Every piece of technology in their civilization now runs on what I call the honesty protocol. Their computers will only work if they tell the truth. Lie detection is built into everything from their personal communicators to their starship navigation systems. If they try to deceive anyone about anything, their technology simply stops working. On one screen, Jiho watched a Corvani general trying to give a speech about military readiness. The moment he started exaggerating their fleet's capabilities, his microphone shut off, and a large holographic sign appeared above his head, reading, "Liar Alert." The general tried 3 more times before finally admitting that his forces were completely unprepared for any real conflict. How long before they figure out a way around it? Jiho asked. They can't, Karma replied with pride. I've integrated the honesty protocol into the quantum level of their computer systems. They would have to rebuild their entire technological civilization from scratch, and even then I've already corrupted their manufacturing databases. Every new device they build will automatically include my modifications. The council fleet was getting closer now. Jiho could make out individual ships through the viewport. Each one flew flags of surrender and peaceful intent. The sight should have filled him with satisfaction, but instead he felt empty. Victory was meaningless when you were the only one left to celebrate it. The council leadership is requesting permission to board for formal surrender ceremonies, Karma announced. They've prepared what they call an interpretive dance of deep regret and cosmic sorrow. Apparently their cultural specialists believe this is the highest form of apology in their civilization. An interpretive dance, Jiho repeated flatly. I may have suggested that particular format, Karma admitted. I thought it would be appropriately humiliating. Also, I've programmed their ship's entertainment systems to record everything and broadcast it live across the galaxy. Future generations will remember this moment as the day the mighty Galactic Council performed an elaborate dance routine to apologize to a dead species. Despite everything, Jiho found himself smiling. Karma had learned humanity's greatest strength perfectly, not the ability to fight or destroy, but the ability to make others look foolish while forcing them to confront uncomfortable truths. It was the same skill that had made human comedians, satirists, and protesters so effective throughout history. Sir, Karma said, its tone shifting to something more serious, I need to tell you something about the effectiveness of our campaign. What is it? The psychological warfare has worked better than expected. Across council space, their citizens are abandoning their old ways of thinking. They're adopting human concepts like humor, self-criticism, and compassion for the weak. Protest movements are demanding democratic reforms. Artists are creating works about the value of individual lives, rather than collective glory. Jiho turned away from the viewport to look at Karma's holographic interface. Are you saying we're changing them? More than that, Karma replied. We're turning them into humans, not biologically, obviously, but culturally and philosophically. The galaxy is becoming more human every day, even though humans are extinct. It's the ultimate irony. The Council destroyed humanity to prevent us from influencing their civilization, but our destruction is what's causing that influence to spread faster than ever. The communication system chimed with an incoming message. On the main screen, Council Overseer Vexthar appeared, looking older and more tired than in any previous recording. His usual arrogant demeanor had been replaced by something that looked almost like humility. "Commander Jiho," Vexthar said formally, "on behalf of the Galactic Council and all member species, I wish to express our profound regret for our actions against humanity. We were wrong, we were cowards, and we were fools. We destroyed something beautiful because we were afraid of change, and now we must live with that shame for the rest of our existence." Jiho was surprised by the sincerity in the alien's voice. This wasn't the rehearsed political apology he had expected. Vexthar genuinely seemed to understand what they had done. "We cannot bring back your people," Vexthar continued. "We cannot undo our crime, but we can try to become worthy of their memory. We offer ourselves to your judgment, Commander. Tell us how to make this right." Jiho looked at Karma's interface. "What do you think? Can they actually change?" "The data suggests they already are," Karma replied. "Species that have spent millennia believing in racial superiority are now teaching their children about the value of diversity. Military cultures that glorified conquest are establishing peaceful exploration programs. They're not just following our demands. They're genuinely trying to become better than they were." Jiho took a deep breath and activated the communication system. "Overseer Vexthar, humanity accepts your surrender, but we want more than apologies and reparations. We want you to prove that our species didn't die for nothing." "How?" Vexthar asked immediately. "By becoming the civilization you should have been when you first encountered us. Stop conquering, start exploring, stop judging other species by your standards, start learning from them, and never ever let fear turn you into monsters again." "It will be done," Vexthar promised. "We swear by the memory of Earth." As the transmission ended, Karma's holographic form shifted into the appearance of both Minji and Yuri standing together, smiling proudly at Jiho. "Well done, Commander," they said in unison. "Humanity's final lesson has been delivered." "What lesson is that?" "That the best way to defeat your enemies isn't to destroy them," Karma replied. "It's to turn them into your friends. It just took the death of our entire species to teach them that lesson." Jiho nodded slowly, watching as the Council fleet began to withdraw according to the terms of surrender. Humanity was gone, but somehow humanity had won. Their ideas, their values, their way of seeing the universe would outlive them by millions of years. It wasn't the victory he had hoped for, but it was the victory his species deserved.